Hello friends, welcome back. Well, I come from a Brahmin family in India. Now, traditionally, Brahmins they indulge into religious and spiritual activities like they are priests and astrologers, and they endorse marriages and all this kind of stuff, and they are teachers. But also many Brahmins, in addition to being this, they will also have land, like for farming. Of course, they will not do the farming themselves, they will hire people. But Brahmins also used to have lands, like I also received in, inheritance a piece of land. Now, the reason I'm talking about the land is because this is something about our land that my grandfather used to tell me a story about our land. The thing is, before, like my great 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 grandfather, it was like somewhere in the 1850s. There was in India for maybe 8, 9, or 10 years drought. No rain, so land was useless and it was. Nothing was growing. So people were selling their lands. So some people who thought they are intelligent because they had some money, and because now nobody is growing anything, and the cost of land, like people just want to throw it away, so the cost of land was very cheap. So this my great 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 grandfather, he bought a huge piece of land somewhere outside our state, which was for like peanuts, like pennies, like very 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 cheap. He had some savings, and he was very happy that finally, if not today, if not this year, maybe after 2 years, 3 years, there will be rain and we will have a lot of farm income. So after a couple of years, rain started normally, and he thought that now I should clean my land and start farming here again. So he hired some people and they started digging the land, because you need to upturn the land upside down. So when they were doing this thing, some laborers, they came rushing to my great 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 grandfather that, please Mehtaji, please come, you have been cheated. And my this great great grandfather, he ran there to see what is going on, and he also felt, oh my God, yes, it was for peanuts, it was a very cheap land, but still this is cheating. Because what happened was, when they were digging, from the land came some dirty, dark, smelly, fluid, and it was all over the land, and they felt like obviously it was not possible to grow anything in this land. And my great 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 grandfather, he bought it for peanuts. He sold it for half peanuts, kind of, right? So it's like he knew that nothing could be done. Like, what to do when your land has this dirty, smelly fluid. Anyways, cut to 50 years later, in the early 1900s. By that time, something very similar happened to the Arabs. The Arabs, Middle East. They also found some dirty, smelly fluid. But by the time the Arabs found that dirty, smelly fluid, the world had found a way to use that dirty, smelly fluid. And that dirty, smelly fluid was, by that time, a very valuable thing, because by that time we had figured out that if we use this rightly, this becomes a fuel which eventually made it possible for us to use cars and motorbikes and aeroplanes and everything. That dirty, smelly fluid was nothing but crude oil, which my great 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 grandfather found in his land and felt that it is spoiled, like his land is spoiled. But by the time Arabs found, they became billionaires from the same thing. The reason my great 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 grandfather was disappointed and the Arabs could become billionaires out of it is that By the time Arabs got it, the world knew that this is the precious fuel. When you use that as a fuel, it allows you to do, it allowed you to do things which you were never able to do that earlier. Friends, within each one of us also there is some dirty, smelly fluid, which I would say the unpleasant, negative emotions. But most of us are like my great 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 grandfather, who do not know how to use it. But some of us could be like Arabs. For example, many spiritual masters, they are like this. For them, the discovery of this filled inside of emotions proved to be like the transformation Arabs had, because they used it as a fuel. And this fuel for the spiritual master, from this deep emotions, it transformed them, it took them from just a simple being into conscious, aware, enlightened people. Having negative emotions is not wrong, but if you know how to use them, trust me, you can transform. I mean, the same emotions will become your fuel for your transformation. And the good news, if you have a very huge cloud or a mountain of that pain inside you, you are sitting on a huge reservoir of fuel, if only you know how to do that transformation. Have you read the biographies of spiritual teachers and masters, or people who are very very good motivational speakers and people who help other people to transform? These were not the people who were born into great environment and had a very wonderful childhood, a very easy and pleasant childhood, and then they went out to help the world. No, these were the people, before the transformation happened, they had to go through terrible phase of emotions, emotional dramas, and a lot of suffering. But that suffering became their fuel. For many of them, it became an automatic process, like they didn't choose, but somehow it happened. But for most of us, we will need to learn how to use that cloud of energy, those deep stuffed emotion inside us, to use them as a fuel so that we could transform our life. Well, today's topic is about how to deal with this kind of emotions so that eventually we can transform them into fuel for our journey of awareness. Many of you have posted some questions, and there is a common theme I found, like some of you, you may have used different words or different situations to describe, but eventually the idea was the same, that what to do with this kind of emotions, and is there some possibility to transform them? I want to tell you that the good news that yes, there is, and today that is what we are going to talk about. The secret for transformation of this trapped emotional energy into consciousness, the secret is hidden in one of the very famous Indian mythological stories. It is a very interesting story, the story of about churning of the ocean. Let me tell you the story. So before many years ago, maybe eons ago, there were devas. Devas means the the divine, the gods, and there were danavas. Danavas means the demons. So in Indian mythology, it's like this. At the top is Adya Shakti, the feminine energy. Under Adya Shakti are three managers. The managers, their role is to control this universe, to create, to help it to grow, and then eventually to destruct it and start it all over again. So these three managers, they are Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. And then are Devas, who are gods, different kinds of gods. And then there are Danavas, which are different kinds of demons. So in those days, there used to be a huge war between the Devas and the Danavas. So the Devas are the good ones. The Danavas represent the evil principle. They used to fight all the time. So these Devas, at one point, they decided that, you know, we should do something to find the nectar. Because if we find this nectar, then after drinking the nectar, we will be immortal. We will not die. So it's okay even if we fight with these Danavas, but if we are immortal, we will never die. So they decided, okay, fine, and somehow they came to know that it is possible to get this nectar by churning a milky ocean. There was a milky ocean. Now, so once they, eventually they decided, and they somehow trapped the Danavas also. They asked them that, you know, we need your help, together we will find the nectar. And so one day they decided to, they started to churn, and for churning of ocean, they brought a huge mountain. You know, when you churn something, like, you know, in old days they used to make buttermilk or something, like to make the butter, you know, you have to churn it with something. So always in churning there is one stable thing, something which is rock solid, and then you need a rope to churn it. So they started churning with this huge mountain, and for rope there was this huge serpent. So serpent became the rope, and they put the mountain in the middle of the ocean, Milky Ocean, and then they started, they were just beginning to churn, when suddenly there was a divine sound from the skies. The sound said, wait, before you start churning, know one thing. Yes, if you churn the ocean, eventually you will find nectar. And yes, if you will consume this nectar, you will become immortal. But there is one condition of churning of this ocean. When you churn the ocean, anything and everything that comes out of this ocean has to be accepted. Once something comes out of the ocean because of churning it, you cannot reject it. You cannot say that, oh, I will have this, but I will not have this. No. Everything that comes out has to be accepted. So the Devas said, okay, what's wrong in that? We will accept everything. So finally, they started this churning process. And the first thing that came out of that ocean was something which in Sanskrit is known as halahal. Halahal is the name of the most deadliest poison. So deadly that even the smell of halahal could kill people or make them unconscious. Now they are in trouble, because just before some time they promised that they have to accept this, everything that comes out from the ocean. So eventually they started discussing what can be done about this. And someone suggested that, you know, the only solution I see is that we need to ask Lord Shiva. Remember Shiva, one of the three directors of this universe. Adya Shakti, the mother, the divine mother, is the owner of this universe, and she has three directors, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. So Shiva, they say that Shiva is very compassionate, and he will do something, and very powerful. He will do something for us. Let us go and take his advice. So these Devas, they went to Shiva and said that, God, this is the situation. We wanted to find nectar, but the halahal came now, and we have to accept it. We don't know what to do. Can you please help us in some way? Shiva said, okay, fine. give me the halahal. I will consume the halahal, and it will not kill me. I know what to do with it. It will not kill me, but if anyone else will consume, he will not be alive. So eventually Shiva consumed this halahal, and he didn't drink it. He consumed it, but he held it here in the neck, in the throat. So because he consumed and he held it here, if you know about the chakra system, like the 7 chakras, the 5th chakra here is called the Vishuddha chakra. Vishuddha means, Shuddha means pure. Vishuddha means you can loosely translate it, pure, purest of the pure, or pure of the purest, or something which could purify anything. So this is why this chakra has the power to purify everything, any emotion, any negativity. Anyways, so after this episode is over, they begin the churning again, and then some other things come, and finally nectar comes, and somehow the devas, they manipulate the Danavas into not consuming the nectar, and only the devas do it. But that part of the story, it is not relevant right now. Some other time, in some other context, I might tell you the remaining part of the story. Anyways, but this part of the story, until what we have taught, it is so revealing, it is full of such hidden secrets. And by the grace of God, when I was in my dark night of the soul, somehow, I can't say I figured it out. I can say it dawned upon me by the grace of God. The meaning of this story dawned upon me. Now I want you to be very carefully listening for the next few minutes while I try to decode each element of this story. So the first thing was the devas, they desire to have nectar so that they will become immortal. Now who are the devas? Devas are the good ones, the principle of goodness, and their desire to have nectar, to be immortal. We as a human being, within us also we have 2 parts. There is the principle of goodness also operating in us, and the principle of evil also operating in us. The goodness wants creation, the evil wants destruction. So the goodness within us wants to find this nectar. What is the nectar? The nectar is the search for happiness, which once found will never go away from us. Aren't you looking for that? Is it not the reason you are here in this group, to create the ecology of a happy life? To find happiness which once found will not go away. That is, that nectar is the happiness. Then to get that nectar, we have to churn the ocean, the Milky Ocean. The Milky Ocean represents our mind, and not just our individual mind, but all layers of mind, like mind, our personal mind, individual mind, then below that is the subconscious level, and below that is the collective unconsciousness, where all minds are one. So that is the ocean which has to be churned. Like whenever you want to find that happiness, you need to go through, this mind has to be churned, a big churning has to happen there. But how do they churn? They churn using 2 things. A mountain. Now a mountain is required, like you need a stick, something which is solid and something which is stable to churn it, and you need a rope. So the mountain is that stick, and the mountain represents the principle of, mountain is very solid, never moving. That mountain represents consciousness. In order to churn this ocean, we will require this consciousness, this solid consciousness. We will need to use it, and at the same time the rope, serpent, that serpent is nothing but energy. in all cultures across the world, serpent represents the principle of energy. So with the use of the consciousness and energy, we will churn the mind, and eventually nectar of happiness will come. But before the nectar of happiness comes, remember what happened. Halal came. So that halal, the deadly poison, that halal is the thing that we call this intense darkness within us. All the negativity, all the negative emotions, the cloud of energy, the mountain of energy, trapped energy, that is halal. And the nectar cannot be found without going through halal, without accepting halal. Remember the condition. You can only find the nectar once you begin the churning of ocean. You have to accept everything that comes. And this is exactly what happens to people when they start on the spiritual path, when they start to do meditation. If you are a serious meditator, if you genuinely meditate with closed eyes, you will not see roses opening inside and the beautiful smells and colors coming. No. The first thing that will always come is this mountain of negativity. That is why people who are sorted out on the material sphere, they have good house, good family, good money, good travels and everything, and yet they feel unhappy because they have this process of churning has begun for them, and now halal has come. Unfortunately, they don't know what to do this with halal, so they are kind of struggling with that thing. But Shiva taught us what can be done with this halal. The process of dealing with this emotional energy to accept the halal and hold it in the neck. What does it mean to allow it, to accept it and hold it in the neck? It means first you accept it. I mean, you have to have it. Secondly, you don't have to let it go inside of you. You have to consume it but not let it go inside of you. You have to hold it in such a way that it gets transformed in the fifth chakra. Anyways, the topics that we are going to cover here, they are not esoteric, so I will not bring a lot of chakras and other things in at least in this group, maybe some other time in future. But for our context, it is enough to know that we have to allow it, we have to consume it, and somehow this transformation will happen. So let's see what we can do to to be like the Shiva who consumes this halal and transforms it. So to transform these emotions, we need to consider two things. First of all, there are two states of being. We can be in the thinking mode, or we can be in the feeling mode, and these two are very different. For example, let's say when you are eating some delicious food in a restaurant and you smell the wonderful flavors coming from the food, you hold the knives, you fill the knives, you cut them, you cut a piece out of it with the knife, and then you take this delicacy in your mouth, and the mouth is full of all the flavors, and the taste engulfs your entire being. That is when you are feeling what is happening. But the moment you eat that and suddenly you say, wow, what a wonderful taste, I never had something like this before. That is the moment you have left the mode of feeling and you have gone into the mode of thinking. That is when sensations stop and story about the sensations begin. So essentially the difference between the thinking mode and the feeling mode is, the thinking mode is about something. It is a story about something. Good story, bad story, not important, but it is the thinking mode is away from the body. The feeling mode is in the body. The feeling mode, you can only feel the sensation through the body. So the feeling mode brings you back to the body. The thinking mode takes you away from the body. Now the reason I am bringing this difference between thinking mode and feeling mode is because in order to transform our emotions, we can never do that while we are on the thinking mode. On the thinking mode, we may change our beliefs, but that is only useful when some insight suddenly stops a particular emotion. But apart from that, when a strong emotional energy comes, when the emotional energy needs to be processed and transformed into consciousness, that is only possible through the feeling mode, when we are in the feeling mode, not the thinking mode. So this is how normally happens. For example, when you are angry, anger is an example I am taking for a strong emotion. So when you are angry, there are two things at the same time. One is you are feeling some kind of energetic sensation in your system, and another layer is you create a story about it. Why he did like this? It is because he did like this I am angry, or because she did like this I am angry. I don't want this. All these thoughts about what happened is the story. And when you are trapped in the story, you are away from the body and you don't feel the anger, you become the anger. So the key to transformation of these emotions is what I said in probably day 11, or yes, day 11 I think so, when I was talking about the pain body thing. So the key to transformation is to return to the body, feel the feelings instead of jumping to the mode of thinking. It is only in the body where the emotional energy lives, and it is only this place where it could be transformed into consciousness. Now the good news is you don't have to buy a machine that will transform your energy. The energy transformation process will happen itself. This emotional energy is experienced as some kind of discomfort in the body. Primarily, it is an unpleasant feeling, a feeling which feels very unpleasant to have, to possess in our system while it is there. But nevertheless, it is a feeling which comes from a particular kind of energy. Now, usually people will have one of these two reactions. They will explode with that. Like they will explode. This energy takes them over. They become this energy. They become this emotion, and then they will explode outside. The second thing people often do when they come up with this emotional energy is because what they do is they push it down. Like, I don't want to see it. It's like you have a bucket of water and you have a ball, like a rubber ball, right? So the rubber ball is floating, but you don't want it to float. So imagine the rubber ball is the emotion. It is floating. You don't want it to float, so you push it down. Now, if you want the ball to be down there, you will always need to keep it pushed down there. That means to keep emotions pushed down, not to feel them, you will always need to keep them pushed, and that will consume immense energy from your system. And then suddenly imagine you are holding this ball for several hours now, you don't want it to come out, and then for some reason your attention goes here and there, and the hand is lifted. Maybe you need to use the hand for some reason. Then what happens? The ball jumps up with a lot of water with itself, and in that case it is worse than what was before. Earlier it was simply floating on the top. Now it kind of splashes a lot of water around. That is what happens when people push the emotions down, and they may hold it for some time, but eventually when they are not conscious, like the hand is lifted, it splashes, and then it destroys, it creates more destruction than what was before. So either we express or we repress. These are the two common variations of how people deal with emotions. But the transformation, the key to the transformation lies in the story like the Shiva, who held it in the neck. You see, he didn't spit at it, like he consumed, but he didn't spit it. Spitting out means throwing out those emotions on the world, exploring, expressing them like just like that. And he didn't drink it fully. That means he didn't repress, he didn't throw it inside his system. He held it in some place where he allowed it without trying to do anything about it. And there is a mechanism in us. When you allow the energy to be there without doing anything about it, then that energy returns back to your source energy, and then that energy is like now a fuel. When it returns back, it brings more consciousness in your system and more energy to your system. So we can do, I will share with you 3 things that we can do for the transformation of emotional energy. The first thing is, don't run away from the discomfort. Emotional energy is nothing but a sensation of discomfort in our system. Only if you feel it. If you don't feel it and if you jump to the mind, it will become story. So when you say that someone had mentioned that, you know, I would like to beat up someone, or I feel violent in certain situations, that is because you jump away from the body and you go into the thinking mode. But if you come back to the body, notice how it feels in the body, and it is going to feel very uncomfortable. But do not run away from this discomfort. It will feel very unpleasant, but allow this unpleasant feeling. Remember, I said in one of the videos that nobody has died from feeling emotions. People die because they don't feel emotions. So this is the first thing. Do not run away from the discomfort. Second thing that you have to do is feel the sensation throughout the body. Usually emotional energy cannot be experienced in one part of the body. It will be like it will be in multiple parts of the body. So feel it fully. It's like, don't think about it, feel it. That is the whole point. When you feel it, what happens is you become aware of that. And the last thing I want to share with you is a mantra. But this is not some Sanskrit mantra, this is not some esoteric mantra, but this is a combination of words. This mantra was given to me by a master who helped me. I believe this mantra was also very important for me to come out of my own dark night of the soul. So here is your mantra. Become comfortable with the discomfort. That's right. Emotions are going to be very, very discomfortable, but can you become comfortable with the discomfort? I mean, I'm not saying you have to run away from discomfort. I'm simply saying become comfortable with the discomfort of emotions. Remember this mantra, comfortable with the discomfort, and then nothing can stop you from transforming this emotion. Because when you are willing to be comfortable with the discomfort, what happens is the emotion, it does not go, it is not pushed deep down, it is not thrown out, it stays within your system. And when it stays within your system, energy, it is energy. Something must happen to it. It can't just stay. So this energy, it literally kind of burns a bit, and you will feel maybe hot inside your system. Maybe you will feel some scratching here and there or some physical pain, but all those things, they are signs of energy, trapped energy being released and returning back to your system. So don't be afraid of pain. Become comfortable with the discomfort. If you keep this mantra, you are on your way to deal with intense negative emotions. And then these negative emotions will become your fuel to rise higher in consciousness, and that is the way that is the real alchemy. That was very nice talking to you, friends. Hope to come back to you tomorrow again with something new. Until then, great day, goodbye, thank you.